right, welcome back to the ladder game. I think a good first topic would be the foundations in history we can trust and why understanding them can help us navigate what we're trying to do a little easier. What I know that we use to discern between historical information are archaeological digs. I can never say that. Satellite images, lab analysis, astronomical charts, fossils, and DNA sequences. We'll backtrack DNA where it came from. These people came from this region in America. These people, using their DNA. And major events like wars or things that everybody understands. Some other ways I know we could get info are leaked or declassified info. When we have whistleblowers from certain countries, you have people from when companies mess up, and basically the only reason why we even know about project, what is it, Ultra, or what, the mind washing thing the CIA did, is because there were some purchase documents that they didn't delete. It got messed up. They didn't know it was in this place, and then when they had to release their mass information, people were looking through it, were like, whoa, what is this? So that's getting info from leaked or declassified info. But then there's also patterns in culture or human evolution that we can backtrack, and people from different disciplines, they'll basically give us different insights. So a person that's studying physics will be able to physically backtrack the earth using its atoms, and then they might cross-reference that information from somebody that's studying fossils and bones, and they'll cross-reference that from somebody studying art, and then we'll get a way clearer image. There are also other types of scientific or archaeological evidence we can use, because that's how we know when the Big Bang started. We didn't dig the earth to figure that out, but there's a whole bunch of ways and these certainties that we can basically not come up with or find. We know this happened, just come from a bunch of places: science, art, observation, and each field basically is a ladder, another rung in the ladder that helps us get to where we're trying to go. Okay, so hopefully I put this on the screen and you can see as I explain. But basically, I made this giant chart that'll help me cross-reference dates in history and stuff. And it's just from a bunch of sources. I used AI to help me make it also, but I also cross-reference that with old textbooks I still have, and I cross-reference that with some YouTube videos, and I cross-reference that with some websites. I know how to actually use bibliography, so I wasn't using just random.com websites. But basically, that ended up helping me make this giant chart. Other than just improving stuff that ChatGPT got wrong, I didn't really edit anything. So this is just what we're basically taught in schools or in other areas, and it's just a rough timeline of all of history right now, and we can then go back together, comment, tell me what I'm messing up at, tell me what should be fixed already, and then we'll work on a grandiose version. Okay, so we start around 14 billion years ago. Big Bang happened. We know this because of reversing redshift and cosmic. We're in the cosmic microwave, basically. But okay, so I hope you understand what redshift is. But if you don't, basically we're in an electromagnetic universe, and then when when stuff that moves through that medium, like photons and stuff like that, they vibrate differently. They basically kind of give off different colors, but this one we can't see the different color is said, but we call it redshifted because it's essentially like slowing down, if that makes sense. So that's like the end of the universe, and then we can like backtrack that, and that's how we found out that. I'm not gonna say this for every single one, but I have facts in every single section, every single like bullet point I put, and that's just basically what I'm proving. Okay, so around 14 billion years ago, Big Bang, right? So you got like 13 or 12 billion years ago, the first galaxy starts to form, because again, like from the Big Bang or the singularity, whatever, starts cooling down, and then like 10 billion years ago, you get the first stars. 4.6 billion years ago, you get the sun forming. 4.5 billion years ago, you get the Earth. 3.8 billion years ago, you get the moon. 4 to 3 billion years ago, you'll get like the first version of like life, because like now we have like kind of atmosphere and stuff, but we won't get real oxidation till 2.5 billion years ago, right? Then 600 million years ago, that's when multicellular life starts forming. Thank God for that. 400 million years ago, or 500 million years ago, first plant lives, animals, so in between that, you already know, like we had volcanoes form, we had land form, and we had all that, right? 66 million years ago is the like Cretaceous period. In between that, like basically we're in dinosaur time, and then like around 66 million years ago, they got extinct because of some like giant like thing that just came from the sky and killed everybody. All right, so now we're about to get to a bit of human history. All right, so that was 66 million years ago. Dinosaurs are basically not here anymore. 2.5 million years ago, we have traces of early humans, or Homo genus, or whatever we'll call them, right? They're not Homo sapiens, but they're there, they're doing stuff, they have tools, they're doing crazy stuff. So they have like crazy stuff going on. 300,000 years ago, you get, still in Africa, Homo sapiens. So we get like hunter-gatherers, we get like advanced tools, advanced crazy like stuff, woodworking, stuff like that. You get your like Neanderthals are still around, I'm thinking, and stuff like that. Then we go to 70 to 50,000 years ago. Before this, there were many migrations because there's kind of an ice age. This is still kind of part of the ice age, right? There's a bunch of ice ages. So we're having many migrations. But 70 to 50,000 years ago is where we start getting big migrations, big groups. And by 50 to 10,000 years ago, there's global settlement. So we have like the early versions of the Mayans are there, the early versions of these people are there. So it's kind of crazy. So if we go to like 11,000 years ago, or like 15,000 years ago, that's where, or you could go to like 115 to 11,000 years ago. That's like the last glacial period, or the like ice ages starting to end. And then 12 to 10,000 years ago was the last ice age. So by then we have the Nile Valley early civilizations doing stuff. The people are starting to like do different stuff in Europe. People are starting to do like the humans reach Americas all the way in like 50,000 years ago. Humans already reached East Asia, so you have like before the you get your Mongol Empire, before all that, you're like that early people. That's what we're talking about. So we already passed the last ice age. 10 to 6,000 years ago, Neolithic expansion. So you have the people that came from mid-Africa that then rose, like followed the Nile, and like the Sahara dried. So the Sahara culture spread basically, and like those people start to come up, and then like throughout all this while they're traveling, most of the pyramids apparently already were kind of like made. You have people in like the Amazon doing crazy stuff. And this is not like what people call the Amazonian tribes. We're talking about like actual Amazon, like South America, because like Dahomey wasn't a thing yet. But you have these like Nubians, which we call now. They didn't call themselves Nubians, but Sahara people, Nubians, all these people, they spread. Some went down. Most of them went up, because that was, you're going to newer places. And then 5 to 4,000 years ago, we have major civilizations, but the old Egypt is like gone, if that makes sense, right? And now we have New Egypt, essentially, right? Or the end of Old Egypt dynasty, or like the like Kemet or whatnot, right? History is crazy. But even during that, we have the Minoans doing stuff. We have the Indus Valley civilizations, or they're starting urban planning. So like they're like developing advanced like cities and stuff. There's a bunch of stuff going on all over the world already. You have like technologies going crazy. We have pottery. We have weaving. We are basically past the like, or we're going into like the greatness of the Bronze Empire, or we're past the height of the Bronze Empire, and the Bronze Empire is starting to like settle down, right? So 5 to 4,000 years ago, we have Egypt. The pyramids are already built. They already have a long history of pharaohs, hieroglyphs, all of that. There's a bunch of stuff going on in Europe. There's a bunch of fighting states. There's fighting states in Asia. There's fighting because these people, from my understanding, basically moved. But I'm trying not to put my understanding. 3,000 years ago is where you get the Kingdom of Kush, and the Nile culture, and the terracotta sculpture starts getting built. Then you also get your Greek city-states and the Mycenaean cultures. But then too, you also get your Shang dynasty and your bones and stuff, because the Mongols were like the Mongols are gone by now, right? Not like all the way gone, but you get your Shang dynasty, right? Olmecs already have ceremonial centers. They presume those giant heads in Tobeki Tempeh already made and stuff like that. Right? So 2.5 to 2,000 years ago, now we go to classic civilizations, or what most people think of when they think of ancient civilizations. So you have Carthage, you have Rome, you have Zhou, you have basically you have Egypt is not Egypt anymore. It's essentially run by Romans, right? And then eventually it will be Middle Easterns, right? Right. Greek philosophy, you have Confucianism going on in like China and stuff, or early Shanghai. I gotta clean up on China if anybody could help me. We have a bunch of proof what's going on there too, right? And we're not at year zero yet. 1.5 to 1,000 years ago is essentially your early medieval empire, right? You get like trading, you get Christianity starting to really spread, you get your Byzantine empires, you get your Vikings, you know what I'm saying? You get India starts going crazy with math, medicine. China starts making early printing. The Mayan states by then already made their pyramids, already did writing, already had advanced stuff, right? So now it's like, who really, what I mean? Where do advancements really come from? Uh, Polynesian navigation expands, not starts, but expands. So these people have been exploring, right? 500,000 years ago to 0 CE, and year 0 is in every year 0. I use CE because I like Common Era, and then BCE you could before the Common Era, but I usually just use like a million years ago, because it's the same thing, right? But right. So if I say 500, I could say like 500 BCE or something like that, right? But that's just because there's AD and like after the death of Christ or something like that, or BC and AD, and like I understand, but I also think that like all these different ways to tell the chronology might mess things up, in my opinion. My bad, I went on a tangent, but basically 500 years ago, 2 years ago, climate civilization. That's where people also said that Jesus supposedly died. We're going on facts, right? So, but I still want to state that because that was like a major thing that's also still affecting our world to this day. West African kingdoms were trading and stuff, so that's where you get your Kingdom of Mali with Mansa Musa, the richest man in the world, and stuff like that. This is also where you get the fall of Western Rome, and like feudalism starts to be more of a thing in certain like places. Silk Road commerce changes a lot because now you have a lot of your bronze empires falling, and since you have a lot of your bronze empires falling, trade obviously gets drastically changed. Trades from different places, and up to this point Rome was essentially controlling, or not controlling, like Troy is the center of the Silk Road, and like you had like Rome was their defending party in a lot of times. You get your classic Mayan civilizations that we think of, Polynesian islands expansion. So they were navigating expansion before, but now they're like basically getting more territory essentially, and the codification of religions. So if you go to like 1,000 years ago or almost 2,000 years ago, you get your Islamic religion start to like come forth. So you have Christianity, Buddhism, you had Islam, right? Because before that you had like Greek philosophy and Confucianism, and then before that, actually in like 3,000 years ago, you had early animism in Europe. So I also believe that animism is not the earliest ideology. I think something came before that too, because if you go that, ancestor worship is before animism, but I believe there's something even before that too, but that's my own theories. So then now once we get to like 0 CE, right, those 3 Abrahamic religions get, with Buddhism also, my bad, I didn't add, I forgot to say Judaism, but the 3 main Abrahamic religions get codified, and Buddhism gets basically stationed in like, the East Asia. Okay, so year 0 codification of religions. Okay, so if we go to like, now we're getting a little better, right? So around 1,000 years ago, right, to 15,000 years ago, the Little Ice Age began. So I know that major ice ages ended, but kind of right after it ended, a Little Ice Age. In like not right after, but in the look of history on paper, right after the Little Ice Age begins. And then you also have your, like I said before, Mali Empire, But they're trading like Timbuktu. There's Great Zimbabwe, stone cities. There's in medieval Europe now you have Gothic cathedrals. You get your Moors going there, right? You also have in Asia your Yuan dynasties. You get printing inventions, so they're past the stamping by now, and like they're doing crazier things. Because I remember us showing that they had these um, basically like a bunch of like wooden cards, or like you could think of them as stamps that would like you could rearrange. Like they had crazy systems. Aztec, Inca civilizations, they were making roads, they were making agriculture. Tahiti and Hawaii had navigation, a strong social structure, buildings, crazy stuff. Islam spreads, but it also spreads like on the side of the Moors, and together they start making like a lot of the early like institutions. But you gotta yeah. So we could pass that. Now, since we passed like year 1000, we passed year 1500 because we passed year 0. Now we're at 1492. Okay, right? Spain and Portugal, right? Start like looking and like other places and really looking into what's going on in Africa and what's going on here and there. Ming China had maritime trade. Right? And then like, you know, a lot of indigenous American civilizations start getting impacted, because there's also your spread of Christianity and your shipbuilding and navigation, and they bring diseases, because this is not that long after like the Dark Ages, and it's not that long with the plague, and like the French people still aren't like showering, and like Spanish people are like talking with French people, and like, you know, a bunch of stuff, right? But big exploration, right? 1600s, right? Scientific revolution, astronomy, physics. And around here, you're not really going to get a lot of history really about you're going to get less Chinese history and African history that you're finding before from like your textbooks and stuff like that I've realized. So it's like slow down around these areas, right? Scientific revolution, astronomy, physics. Japan starts doing its social order, and arts, and stuff like that. India has a whole different like group in them and stuff like that. 1776, USA founded, right? So a lot of reasons why you're also not going to get a lot of like African stuff histories, because, you know, we're around the 1500s, we're like mid-war and invading Africa. 1800s, Zulu Kingdom comes back because of war. People don't really think about this as war, right? Industrial Revolution, Zulu Kingdom's fighting mid-industrial revolution. That's where you can get your endowment, fighting again, stuff like that. But there's also mad colonial expansion. Industrial Europe, factories, railways. Japan is in modernization, because a bit during this, they meet up with America, essentially, and then not America, they meet up with just Westerners, right? And these Westerners just basically made Japan a colony for a little bit. South America gets independence, and Australia is still colonial Australia, because after a bit they started sending prisoners there to live with like the Aboriginal people, which was crazy. And then we have steam engines, we have communitization, we have urbanization, we have weird secular ideologies, right? 1900s, you get your world wars, nuclear age, decolonization of Africa, and African nationalism starts, right? So that's where you get your Pan-African ideology, which is still getting developed and stuff like that. China has a bunch of civil wars. India is basically gets independence. Mad global conflicts, and because of mad global conflicts, U.S. gets to rise, and when these rise and stuff, we have like World War II, World War One, World War II, and then now we have what's modern Oceania. Because we don't really have the Polynesian people, the Hawaiian people, all the island people aren't really just island people by themselves anymore. Modern philosophy, we had civil rights happen around there, electricity, aviation, computers. So computers are basically no longer people now. Computers are now boxes. 1969 was when the moon program, moon landing happened. So now instead of those two wars, we went to like the Cold War. And now like the world's getting way more and more and more connected, and everybody's like watching certain stuff, and we have photographs and telemetry, and they're building all these like technologies going in a whole new age now, right? We have the Industrial Revolution. Now we're about to go into like the technological revolution. 2000s to 2025, climate age, digital era into the information era, modern African nations, modern Europe, modern Asia, modern Americas, modern Oceania, globalized culture, digital philosophies, internet, AI, renewable energy, genome sequences, verified DNA, like ways we could mess with DNA, and like that's essentially what, if people might not have all this as a basic idea, but that's like the basic idea of how we got to where we get to here now. Certainties to me definitely matter because they help us anchor our questions, because it's like what rise was going on during dark ages. Then also the reason why I even built this church, because I'm like, why can't I just tell what's happening in the different areas at once? Why I have to learn about like only America in this way and only China in this way. And yeah, no, I believe that a bunch of ways we could tell, because people still believe that like there's two Amazon people. There's Amazon people in Africa and there's Amazon people in Amazon. And I'm like, bro, like there were like never Amazonians in in Africa. Those are like, those people are called Dahomey. What's it called? And like, and a lot of those people, if you're looking at them, those people got sent, a lot of those women got sent to live in Jamaica. So, but that's basically what I have for today. If you have anything about how we could improve of this, if you like my starter chart of basically what we were told happened in history, how I could add a few more events that are on textbooks before we even start working on it, that would be helpful too. And hopefully too in the future I could set up a way for maybe we could all download it and work together. I could like leave a PDF, or maybe even I could have like one page that I could like approve certain people, certain viewers to work on. And then yeah, hopefully now we have a place to start, and we can start building off of that. And hopefully everybody knows where like we say we get this information from too. And if not, you can also, this is why I also had the place in the chart that shows where we get this information, so you can cross-reference. So The latter game isn't about having all the answers, you know? It's about discovering the foundations that we can trust first, right? Exploring uncertainties, then critically thinking together. And hopefully, once we do all that, we can start doing what everybody says, standing on shoulders of giants. And then we can see the frontier and horizon. And once we can see the frontier, horizon, or like, you know what's really going on, then I believe we can make final judgments. But nah, like, if you like my video, like and subscribe. If you have any ways of improving, anything to say, anything you think I got wrong, you already know the deal. This is an interactive channel. This is an interactive group I'm trying to make here, and I hope you enjoyed.